So I just got done watching Ireland and Italy and managed to watch this one several hours after it finished. So not live, but I managed to avoid all my spoilers. Very glad I did because what a crazy game. If I'd seen this 54 points to 7, 8 tries to 1. If I'd seen that scoreline beforehand, I wouldn't have been kind of curious as to what was going on at half time because half time it was a close game, 14 points to 7. Yeah, very much a second half blitz from the Irish in this one. It started off like a blitz as well because Ringrose almost scored within 2 minutes. But it was just about a metre too far for him to get the ball over the line. Stockdale was also running riot early on. It was just an ankle tap that stopped Ringrose, so I guess for any kids who watch that game, it's kind of a testament to not giving up, even if you think the man's already beaten you. Byrne got his try though, the first of two for him, within like 5 minutes. So it was 7-0 pretty early on. And then there was a lot of Irish attack without being able to quite break down the Italians. The Italians were hanging in there. And they finally started to warm up into the game. But initially it looked like the Irish were just going to run riot. And then the Italians actually started to play some rugby. They started to put some phases together. They had some attacking play within 5 meters of that Irish line, but just couldn't quite get through. They got within about a meter, but couldn't get the job done. And then McGrath got his second try after Lama's break, and it was 14-0. Looking like, all right, this is kind of back to regular service. But the Italians, they weren't done. Campanaro, God, my Italian pronunciation is poor. I can feel it. He got his try from an intercept. So, I mean, when you look at the scoreboard at the end of the day, if you're an Irish fan, you'd be thinking pretty much apart from kind of their own error, the Italians weren't able to get any points. So that's encouraging. It's encouraging if you're an Italian fan to say, hey, this is the second best team in the world, albeit not their full strength lineup. Neither is the Italian team. But it was only 7 points in it at halftime. But the second half, yeah, it was pretty much a different story. It was the same story straight away, and that the Irish started with a real big hiss and a roar, but it just didn't let up this time. They didn't let the Italians warm back into the game. It was Byrne again in the start of the second half, 42 minutes. Then Lama, 45 minutes. Intercepted one of the Italians' big looping passes, so he had a real good eye for that. There was a maul try, so if there's another thing for the Irish fans, you scored tries in a whole lot of ways. On the counter, with good phase play from mauls, like it was the whole set for that Irish attack. So they're not a team that relies on one way to score tries. They can get you in a lot of ways, and they showed a lot of those ways today. Yeah. Lama is the guy story. I mean, all the try scorers, you got Ringrose, Cronin, Lama got 3, McGrath got that 1, and Byrne got 2. It's going to be the Lama story, really, or Lamua, if the commentators I were listening to are to be believed in terms of pronunciation. His feet, man. Like, there's something to be said when you watch a guy who is just like a powerhouse runner, like George North, when he just bursts through people. Julian Savia on his day when he would just bump people off for fun. But there's just something so effortless about the way he runs. Obviously, it's not effortless. It's a great deal of skill and balance to be able to run at that speed, to stop or to like pause and then change direction so quickly. But he just makes people look silly. It was almost insulting for some of these guys trying to tackle him. They're running and he just suddenly jinks direction, and they're tackling over here in thin air, and he's just gone back the other way straight past them. Crazy. We've got to see more of him. I think he's among a few guys nominated for Breakout Player of the Year, so he's definitely put his case forward even more with that performance. My word, that was crazy. Set up a try as well. I mean, in terms of his stats, I was going to get towards these at the end, but while I'm here, he beat 12 defenders. I mean, most games like 5, 6, maybe 8 is the top guy, but he got 12 and had 245 run meters with the ball. 245. Most games don't get a guy who hits 100. he had 245. Sometimes a guy gets 120. Wales, in their game against Scotland before this one, their team had 294 as a team. Lama had 245 on his own. I mean, obviously Scotland, a different opposition from Italy, but it was still two Six Nations teams up against each other in November again, which is always interesting. But, yeah, man, what a crazy, crazy performance. Yeah, just crazy stuff. Aki set up a try as well. He doesn't pass the ball often, but when he did pass the ball, he set up a try, so that was pretty good for Ringrose. Yeah, man, I don't know what else to say. I'm just kind of blown away by that second half. It was just so dominant. They were stripping the ball on the tackle. They were getting turnovers, getting intercepts. Some of the box kicking, there was a little bit of, like, when Italy did get that try towards the end of the first half, Ireland were struggling if you're going to be nitpicky about the result. They were struggling to exit. Like, they had a poor box kick, and then the box kick was charged down, and then they got the intercept try, the Italians. So it wasn't a perfect performance from the Irish for sure, but it was the second half was very, very good. If the first half was solid, I don't know what you call the second half, because it was crazy improvement. Whatever Joe Schmidt said at halftime, it seemed to work a treat, because they came out and just did not stop dominating. Italy kicked the ball away right at the end, right on full time. They're building phases, not really going anywhere. The Irish defense was really solid. Like, I'm talking about the attack with 54 points, but the defense was also, it was just frustrating the Italians when they would have the ball, because they did have ball. They had 45% possession in territory, which is obviously the lesser of the two teams, but it's not poor. It's fine. You can do things with 45% possession, but only 5% or 10% more possession for Ireland, and they had more than, or almost double the run meters. Italy had 393. Ireland were closing in on 700. So, yeah, man, the Irish defense was just frustrating. They kicked the ball away at the end right before Lama got his last try, and it was just, as one of the commentators said, just it kind of epitomized their performance. Just frustrated, like, stuff it, kick it away. Had enough of this running at this Irish wall, and Ireland went and scored a try. Got cut to bits by Lama. So, yeah, tackling Italy 79. I mean, when you're dropping below 80, you're getting into pretty iffy territory, and conceding 54 points is a sign of that. Ireland were at 86, which is, 85 is always very good. If you can get into 90s, that's getting into exceptional, but 86 is top draw for a test match. There were only 8 penalties in the whole game, so it was a pretty light touch by the officials in this one. I think the TMO was called upon once or twice, but for the most part, not too much whistleblowing. Irish set piece again, solid, 100% line out, 100% on their own ball from the scrum. The Italians were 85 on the scrum and 70% at the line out, which is just, again, if you're playing the number 2 team in the world, it's not going to cut it. So, Traore had a really bloody nose. He came on pretty early. I think he came on in the first half, so that didn't help the Italian cause. He was probably getting pretty knackered by the end of the game. But they did have a couple of good performers. Maya made 23 tackles. Campagnaro made 20 tackles along with his try. He beat, I think, 5 or 6 defenders, which is usually really good until you get a guy who beats 12. Conan for Ireland made 17 tackles. So solid performers all round. Carberry ran the game pretty well. Byrne came on for his debut. So did Addison. So it was, especially that second half, an all-round pretty good day if you're an Irish fan. The Italians, I guess you take heart that you can keep the number 2 team in the world close at half-time, but like when I've been talking about the Wallabies getting beaten by the All Blacks, it's 80 minutes, and at 80 minutes it didn't look very pretty for the Italians. But, yeah, I guess we'll see how these teams go. Going forward, I think Italy has got Georgia coming up, and who have Ireland got? I forget. I'll have to look that up in a minute. I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments as well. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game. Pretty dominant stuff. Standout players. There were a lot from Ireland. What did you guys think of them? What did you think of the game itself? The big difference between the first and the second half, because it was It was very much a game of two halves in terms of the result. The crowd looked pretty good as well. Obviously, it was the triple header, so it was the women's game with the Black Ferns up against the American women's team, then this game, and then the Māori All Blacks against America. So fans definitely got their money's worth if they were in attendance for this or any of the previous games, previous game or the one after, because it was all pretty entertaining stuff. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.